Welcome to my secret channel, Emerald, where I, in an extremely boring fashion, in the laziest format possible, ramble about whatever I feel like rambling about. In my previous video, I talked about how I actually didn't get into the series until the video games, that is, until 2017, which is when V3 came out in North America. And, I had seen the anime probably 2016, the Danganronpa 1 anime that everyone hates, that I actually kind of enjoy. Not that I think it's an amazing adaptation, but I still enjoy it for what it is. V3. So, I played Danganronpa 1 and Danganronpa 2 in the span of like 2 weeks when 1-2 Reload came out on the PS4. And so that's how I got into the games. And I saw V3 was a thing. I didn't know if it was out at the time. I didn't really keep up with video games. I say that Danganronpa revived my interest in video games, or it made me rediscover video games, and I think that's absolutely true. So I didn't keep up with video games. I really didn't follow anything. I didn't know anything about any companies, any release dates, or any events really. I'd only heard of the events. I'd heard of E3, but I didn't actually even know. I'd never watched E3 before, I don't think. But yeah, so that's kind of where I was. I guess I was technically a gamer. I hate that word, but I didn't, I guess, I wasn't as knowledgeable as a lot of people online. But anyways, so building up, so think about this. I played the Danganronpa games for the first time half a year before V3 came out, which was September 26, 2017 in North America. I remember that very specifically. I actually made a cover, I think the title theme, if this gives away what my channel is. I don't care about if people on this channel know what my other channel is. I care more if people on the other channel know about this one, but it doesn't matter. It's not a big channel at all. But I did a cover of the title screen music on the second anniversary, I think, and I made it in 2 days. I had so much fun making that cover, even though I don't think it's very good anymore, but I had a lot of fun making it. But anyways, what was I talking? Okay, so up to the release of this game. So I only had to wait half a year. I feel so bad for everyone that had to wait as long as they did for V3 to come out. V3, I imagine if you're heavily into Danganronpa, like the fandom or anything, I'm not. I mostly avoid it because honestly, I think Danganronpa has a pretty stupid fan base. I can maybe talk about that another time, but I'd like to keep most of the videos on here positive. There will be some negative ones eventually, but I want to keep it 90% positive, 95% positive. And all of my negative stuff wouldn't even be all that negative. But anyways, I keep going off track, but that's kind of the point of this channel. I like talking. The point of this is rambling, right? So yeah, I feel like if you were a Danganronpa fan before, for a long time, the wait for V3 must have been terrible. And I imagine avoiding spoilers while being an active part of that community must have been terrible. So I remember I watched, after I played the games, of course, before V3 came out, I avoided spoilers so hard. As hard as you possibly could. And I'll get into the one thing that I was almost spoiled on, technically. But I didn't realize it at the time. I'll get into that when I start talking about the actual game, though. It's going to be a long video, isn't it? Anyways, so I remember after I played the V3, I remember seeing this panel. It was like a panel at a convention with some of the voice actors from V3, and it was before V3 came out in North America. I swear it was. It was probably in summer of 2017. Erica Harlocker there, the voice of Kaido. Kibo's voice was there. Maki's voice actress was there. And Himiko, who has the best dub voice ever, was there. I played in Japanese, by the way, but I love her. I did watch a bit of the dub in a playthrough, and I thought her voice was amazing. But anyways, people were referencing stuff about the game and talking about the game like they knew a lot of it. They knew about the love hotels and stuff, and Kibo and Kokichi memes. Like, and the game hadn't even come out yet, unless they were like referencing a demo, which I don't think they were. All of them just seemed to already know about everything in the game. It was really weird. Yeah, they're weirdo fan base, not a fan, but whatever. I still like a lot of people, by the way. I actually watch a fair number of Danganronpa YouTubers, like Weeby, Danganmandy, Nuke, I actually don't know how to say his name. Anyways, so leading up, I was so excited for this game. Both Danganronpa 1 and 2 for me were like 10 out of 10 games. Ultra Despair Girls came out on the PS4 a few months before V3. I played that. I expected very little, and I was so surprised at how much I loved Ultra Despair Girls. And so V3 is about to come up. I actually had just started college. I graduated in 2017. I graduated high school in 2017, and I started my first semester of college when V3 had come out. That was during my first semester. And I remember it came out on, I think it was Tuesday, right? I think V3 came out on a Tuesday. It was on September 26th. And Tuesdays, I set my schedule up like a moron. It was so stupid. I set my schedule. You know how I set my schedule up at college? I set it up where I had one class in the afternoon on Mondays and Wednesdays, and on Tuesdays and Thursdays, just for the sake of having Fridays off, I set up my 4 other classes on Tuesday and Thursday from like early morning to the afternoon, probably like 2 or 3 or something. And so I had I basically my first semester got no sleep whatsoever. Every like Monday night going on to Tuesday, Wednesday night going on to Thursday. So I would get probably like 3 to 5 hours of sleep if I was lucky on like a Tuesday or Thursday. And that's when Danganronpa V3 came out. It was on like a Tuesday, and you know, I ordered on Amazon. I had it delivered or whatever day one. And I remember I woke up Tuesday morning, and I had gotten like, I don't know, 4, maybe 5 hours of sleep. I was lucky. I remember I woke up, my eyes were like in pain, and I just woke up and I was like, bro, today's the day. V3's coming out. V3 today, right? I was so excited. I've never been that excited. Okay, well, actually, I think there have been very few instances where I've ever been that excited for a video game. I could probably list them on one hand. It'd be like V3, Smash Ultimate, Borderlands pre-sequel, and I think that might be it. There might be something else or whatever. But I woke up so excited. It was the only thing I thought of that day. And I got out of class, and you know, I was walking to my car. It's legit all I could think about. I had played the demo too at this point. The demo was actually really fun. I'll talk about that later. But I got home. I remember that I, you know, checked the mailbox or whatever, and I remember I was just sitting on the toilet reading the day one dossier thing that was on it. It just had all the characters and descriptions about them or whatever. I don't know why I specifically remember that, but I do. And I think I mentioned this in the previous video, but I have to play Danganronpa at nighttime. I like that immersion. I like playing it at nighttime when everyone else in my house is going to sleep, and I can just like have that time to just like chill and get into it, right? So I started playing, and then since I got no sleep, I think I actually tried to take a nap. I did, didn't I? I tried to take a nap. It didn't last very long. But anyways, so yeah, started up the game. Let's talk about the demo first, actually. Let me go back to the demo. So just really quick, my thoughts on the demo. I thought the demo was so fun. I loved how it wasn't just like the first trial or anything. I feel like that would have been a bad decision if they had like just made, oh, here's the first chapter, you can play it as a demo. That would have been terrible. That would have been spoiled one of the biggest parts of the game. That would have ruined the flow of the game entirely. But the demo was its own funny little short thing. Introduced all the characters, had some like nice references in there about, you know, Yasuhiro and the knife in him where Sayaka died, right? and Hajime and Naegi were there. That was really cool. It was really well set up. I really enjoyed the demo for what it was. And you get like a little bonus or whatever for it if you beat it going into V3. So anyways, day one. Let me tell you about why Danganronpa is my favorite series of all time. My V3 is probably my favorite game of all time. After what, it's like almost 14 minutes now, and I'm just now talking about the game. Anyways, so I was so excited to play as a female protagonist because I thought it would just spice things up. I thought it would make it. I was really hoping that V3 would break the formulas that had kind of been set by 1 and 2, which I guess admittedly they didn't entirely do. Not that, I guess not in the way that I expected at least, but I was really excited to play as Kaede. I really liked her. I really liked Shuichi. Just because my brain's going numb, I'm gonna have to actually look up pictures of the cast just because I don't want to have to think about it. My favorite game of all time, right? And I have to look up stuff about it. Anyways, so I guess my initial impressions of some of the characters were, well, okay, I'll go ahead and tell you, Maki Harukawa. I kind of decided from the very beginning that she would be my favorite. That's kind of what so what I do when I play a game is I pick my favorite based off of design first, initially. And then I give them I give them the most open mind I can possibly have. But sometimes, like, I'll love a character for their design, and another character will just completely win me over. It happens all the time. But Maki was legitimately the character I was most excited for, and in the end was still pretty much my favorite character. I'd say it's Shuichi, we'll get into that, is potentially, like, tied. I'll talk more about that later. But anyway, so the very beginning, let's talk about the setting. And I guess the intro. So I guess the setting, I will say V3 has my least favorite setting of the 3 games. I love 1 because it's like, it feels darker, claustrophobic, more atmospheric. I love the setting of 1. It's definitely my favorite in the series. 2 is the exact opposite of that, and that's kind of why I like it, because they literally just did something that was the exact opposite. But I feel like V3, they were just like, okay, well, we can't do inside the school, and we can't do an island, which is the exact opposite, so we just have to think of something. So they came up with the dome. And that's not a bad idea, but I think I think it's been done before. Isn't Westworld something like that? I've never seen Westworld, but wasn't it something like that? I don't know. But nevertheless, I still thought it was cool. I will say it's probably my least favorite setting, but that's kind of a high bar considering I love the setting of 1 and 2. So it's not really a knock, it's just like saying it's my least favorite, right? I still really like it though. A lot of areas look really nice. And we get this like interesting intro of all the characters looking like really boring or whatever, and how this and then they switch into their ultimate fancy over the top cutesy uniforms for Danganronpa to match that aesthetic. And I like how that plays into the ending, and I will have a lot to talk about when it comes to the ending. Yeah, so initially, I was going to talk about what I thought about each character. So Maki, so I pretty much from the beginning decided I loved Maki because I love her design. I love red and black. It's like my favorite color combination. She just looked sick. She was an emo girl. I was so into her. I was into her the entire game, man. Shuichi, I liked him a lot, kind of based on his design. Let's see, I'm looking at this picture. Kaido, I thought I was gonna hate Kaido. I did. I thought he just kind of, I don't know why, because like I look at his design now, like his design's fine. Why did I think I was gonna not like him, right? Maybe he just didn't stick out to me, I don't know. Tsumugi purposely didn't stick out to me. And okay, I'll go ahead and talk about what the spoiler thing that I almost saw was. So when I was on YouTube once, I got spoiled on Persona 4 really hard because of a moving thumbnail. But I was on YouTube, I think on my PS4, because I used to use YouTube on PS4, and I saw this ominous picture of a character and it just looked menacing. And so I thought that it could have been a spoiler. And after I played the game, I kind of, in retrospect, was like, that picture I saw was probably Tsumugi, right? By the way, spoilers, don't watch this if you haven't played the game. But actually, the more I think about it, I could never find that picture again. I don't even know how I would find that video, but I just feel like it was probably Tsumugi looking menacing. It might have actually been Maki. I don't know. I don't even remember, but I didn't want to see anything. I was being a Nazi at how much I did not want to see these spoilers. Anyway, so I'm just looking at these characters. Yeah, this is all over the place. I'm so bad at talking. Tsumugi, I had basically no opinion of her other than kind of boring, right? That's kind of the point, though. Kirami. Okay, so I wanted to love Kirami so bad because her design is absolutely stunning. I love her design. I love her hair. I love the Victorian era gothic maid outfit. I think I'm into that, right? Count me in. Miyu. So I want to say that at the beginning of the demo, Miyu kind of tipped me off. I think the very first few sentences she said, it kind of made me not want to like her, but then she immediately just started being funny, and I was just laughing, and she grew on me very, very quickly. Himiko, I don't remember what I thought about Himiko. I know what I thought when I was actually playing the game, and I'll get into that. Angie I wanted to love because her design's amazing, and we'll get into Angie and why I think she's one of the most underrated Danganronpa characters ever. Tenko, I didn't have much an opinion on Tenko. I will say this, I think Tenko's hair is greasy looking. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. I don't think I did, but for some reason I look at Tenko and I feel like her hair is greasy, and that's an extremely petty thing to even point out, but I just can't help but think that. I have mixed feelings on Tenko overall though. Kibo, I kind of wanted to hate Kibo because I thought his design was goofy at first, but my opinions have completely changed on that. Kokichi, I pretty much could tell exactly what type of character Kokichi was going to be based off of just, the demo and his design and whatnot. I loved his design. I could tell I was going to like him. Keough, I was so correct when I remember saying to myself that I thought Keough would be a very hit or miss character for me, and oh my goodness, was he a big fat miss. I'll get into that. I'll get into everything, don't worry. Rantaro, I thought he was a very cute lad. I'm straight, but I would probably kiss Rantaro over a lot of women in real life. He's a stunning man. He's a stunning man. And I really liked, based off the demo, I really liked just, the way he talked and the way he interacted. Let's see, Ryoma. I despised Ryoma's design when I first started playing. I hated his design. I wanted to hate him so bad. My opinion of him changed really hard. I'll say that much. And then Gonta, not a big fan of it. I was not a big fan of his design. I think I tolerate Gonta. I don't love him. I don't hate him. But yeah. And then the Mono Cubs. So initially, I thought Mono Kid was funny because he broke his guitar in one of his sprites, and I thought that was the funniest thing ever. And then I got over it really quickly, and I was like, wow, I hate Mono Kid now. Monotaro. I mean, okay, in terms of the designs, who cares? Just the Mono Cubs, right? But I guess initially I kind of liked Monotaro. I liked Monodam. I thought Monophony was alright. I didn't like Monosuke. I will say, one of the most disappointing things about the game, and I'm getting all the negatives out of the way now, is the voice actor change in the Japanese version for Monokuma. It's cringy. I'm not gonna lie. I do not like the new voice for Japanese Monokuma. Very rarely do I think a Japanese voice is actually cringy, but I think that Monokuma's voice in V3, and I think the anime as well, I can't remember, is cringy. It sucks that the original voice actress got dementia. I think I don't remember her name, but she was a very legendary voice actress. She killed it as Monokuma, one of my favorite voices of all time, from a Japanese voice actress. She was perfect as Monokuma, and no one could replace her. Anything that's not that voice it just doesn't work. Saying that, but I actually do like English Monokuma. I say Monokuma instead of Monokuma. I don't know why, really. But yeah, that's one of my bigger complaints, is that I didn't like Monokuma as much in this game, simply because of the voice actress change. That bummed me out. I really didn't like that. The old voice was so legendary. It's very unfortunate that she got dementia. That's very not cool. Unfortunately, obviously, I don't think she'll ever be playing Monokuma again. Very sad. But moving on. So those are my initial thoughts. So let's just get into let's get into Prologue. So now I haven't played the game since 2017. I think I revisited one of the chapters for a brief period of time. Actually, no, I actually did replay Chapter 1. I forgot I did that. I think I replayed Chapter 1. But regardless, so the interesting thing about the Prologue for V3 is just how fast they bring up the mastermind. It's actually insane. There's no talk of any sort of mastermind until any of the games until later. But in V3, they talk about the mastermind in the freaking Prologue. And that was really cool. And it unlike any other Danganronpa game, they doing that weird thing, that impossible platformer, a sort of thing you have to do to attempt to escape, which is so stupid and impossible. Kind of because the controls suck. And also just because it's designed to be super hard. But I remember that was just completely whack, but I thought it was so cool. It's like, wow, this is the thing we actually have to do. I love this. So it was really interesting to see all the characters unite in a way and just kind of turn against Kaido. It was a really good tone setter for it. I don't know, man. It just feels so Danganronpa. It set the tone so well for the rest of the game. But moving on, besides that, right off the bat, Kaido and Shuichi hit it off, and I really love them. Those two are amazing. I'm not into shipping too much. There are characters I ship, but I genuinely just love Shuichi and Kaido's interactions, and I just watch them interact for a whole day. Another thing I loved the teases of Rantaro. I don't know if tease is the right word, but a lot of the hints that Rantaro kind of drops about him knowing more than anyone else there. It's really interesting that he dies so early on, after dropping those hints, because something about Rantaro is going to be revealed later. He knew something clearly. Anyways, so yeah, I loved Kaido and Shuichi's dynamic or whatever already, just straight from the beginning. I think the game did such an amazing job at just getting you to like Kaido and Shuichi together. Not romantically, that's not what I'm talking about. Just as characters and that interact with each other. I think they set that up really well. That are depending on each other and already trust each other by that point in the game. It was really nice. And going into the first chapter, my goodness, I don't even know what to say. I think Chapter 1 of Danganronpa V3 is potentially the best chapter in the entire series. If it's not, then I'd say it's Chapter 5 of V3. I think regardless, V3 has the two best chapters in the entire series. I don't think any other chapters particularly come too close. But like I said, it was set up so well, and I didn't keep up with any theories whatsoever. I didn't even know that there was this weirdo color theory thing, or whatever it was called, about Kaido, the protagonist, dying until after I played the game. And so I was completely blown away. I was so excited to play as Kaido. And then in Chapter 1, Kaido ends up secretly being the killer, and one of the most interestingly set up twists that I've seen in a video game. And I thought it was so impressive. I really did. I'm so glad I didn't keep up with the community. And honestly, I maybe it's mean to say this, but I think when it comes to a game, when it comes to a series like Danganronpa, I think I would actively discourage the idea of keeping up with the community. Keeping up with the community in the build up to a game, if we even get another game though, right? But it's so much better to just go into Danganronpa completely blind. But man, it was just so well set up. I remember that image of all the characters mysteriously walking down the stairs at the same time and just being like spooked out. I was like, bro, what is going on, right? And so I guess let's skip to the trial. So Rantaro died, which is already sad because I already really liked Rantaro. I really wanted to know more about him. I wanted to see more about him. I wanted to see more of him, I mean. And he died. And I was already upset. I was like, okay, who's the killer? And I think in V3, so many of my predictions of who the killer was were just wrong. I mean, my predictions are always wrong, but I was seriously just guessing. I keep yawning. Sorry. Yeah, boring game, right? No. I probably guessed like every way. I don't know. I think I vaguely remember trying to accuse Gonta. I remember being terrified that it was Maki. I really didn't want it to be Maki because every emo girl dies in chapter 3. Or early on, right? And so I just did not want Maki to die. I wanted Maki to stay. So anyways, so I think when you finally reveal, when Shuichi has to finally like actually face the truth of that trial, and he's quiet the whole time, he's not saying anything, he's not refuting anything, and he has to bring up the evidence that Kaido is the killer, was like, I was probably shaking. I probably got the chills, probably like 20 times in a row. I probably actually was in the state of having a chill for like just 30 seconds straight. Imagine that. Imagine having that feeling. It's like, okay, not to get dirty, but imagine having an orgasm that lasts like 30 seconds. But imagine that with your body chilling. I shouldn't say that. I don't want to. Whatever. My channel, right? No one's gonna find this channel, right? Whatever. Oh my goodness, it was so well done. And Kaido basically foreshadowing this whole thing to Shuichi, telling him that he needs to face the truth or whatever she said right before the trial. Oh my goodness, it was so well set up. I don't know how you set that up so well. Intentionally hiding actions that the protagonist is doing is so interesting. And once you go back and play those segments again, you view them differently. And that's what's genius about this first chapter, is it makes you want to go back through the chapter and replay parts just so you can see everything that Kaido says and does with the knowledge of what she's planning. What she's planning, by the way. I have to emphasize that because technically she didn't succeed and she was framed. And that was gut-wrenching, dude. That hurt. I'm not gonna say I cried. A video game has actually never made me cry, though many anime have. I think it's just the format, but I was blown away. I was really sad that Kaido died because I was so looking forward to playing as her. And I'll say this, if Shuichi weren't such a phenomenal character, I think I would have been upset and I think the game would have been ruined. Shuichi, I think this whole twist was dependent on how much people would like Shuichi. Because if Shuichi was a trash person, imagine if Shuichi was like just another Naegi clone. Imagine if he was a Naegi clone. I think V3 would have sucked. Luckily, Shuichi, I'll go ahead and say it now, Shuichi is potentially my favorite character of all time. Honestly, I think he is my favorite character of all time. It's one of those weird scenarios where I want to say Maki is my favorite V3 character, but Shuichi is my favorite character of all time, even though that can't really work. That doesn't really make sense. but whatever, right? And I'll get into more why I love Maki, but Shuichi, just that first chapter was so phenomenally executed that I don't see, every time I hear someone say something like Danganronpa 2 is by far the best in the series, I always think they didn't play V3, because even just off of the first chapter, it's so much more emotional than anything in the past games. Off of the first chapter. Now, you could argue Nanami's death was more emotional. Personally, yes, I was sad at Nanami's death. She is one of my favorite characters in the series, but I still feel like they did a better job at setting up Shuichi and Kaide's relationship, while I mean making me, at least, I can't speak for other people, but it made me feel a lot more for those two together than Danganronpa 2 did with Nanami and maybe like Hajime, right? I didn't really care too much about Nanami's bond with anyone. More so, I just liked her as a character. But in V3, I feel like I felt Shuichi's pain at this point, because his reactions to everything was like even more gut-wrenching. It was so well done. And the scene at the very end, you already know what I'm talking about. The scene at the very end of the first chapter, when he walks into Kaide's ultimate talent lab, or whatever it's called, and Claire de Lune starts playing, I can't think of like a better written chapter in the entire series. I really can't. Purely in terms of the writing, I cannot think of a chapter better than the first chapter of V3. I can't. I would personally say that in terms of the writing, storytelling, character connections, or relationships and whatnot, I think, or character moments, I guess I should say, I think chapter 1 of V3 is the best in the series. Definitely would be one of, if not my favorite chapter in the series. So that was, I don't know, that just chapter 1 alone was already phenomenal. And then we get into chapter 2, and Shuichi takes off the hat, and I'm like, all right, that's symbolism. And the fact that he had the ahoge, you know, the hair thing, that was pretty, I feel like I should have seen it coming. Everything was in front of me, and I missed it. The fact that he had a hat on could have just been hiding his ahoge, right? I should have guessed. I really didn't see it coming. I keep yawning, I'm sorry. I don't know, man. It was so well done. It was so well set up. I absolutely applaud. I have to applaud them. So let's get into chapter 2. So I will say, now this is kind of funny. This is kind of ironic, but I will say I do think chapter 2 of V3 is probably one of my least favorite chapters in the series. It's not even bad, it's just standard. It's definitely my least favorite in the game. I still enjoy it inherently because I enjoy Danganronpa inherently, and I had a ton of fun. I played every chapter in one sitting, except for 2 of them in V3, because my school schedule was pretty poorly set up, and I was just too tired to continue it sometimes. I think chapter 1, and I want to say chapter 3, I think I did not finish in one sitting. But chapter 2. So chapter 2, I will say, is probably one of my least favorites, although I do think the killing in that chapter was set up very well. But the motivation videos, this is okay. I talked about Ryoma, how I wanted to hate him. Let me tell you why Ryoma is actually, 1, a great character, and 2, plays a great role in the game. So the motivation for the chapter 2 killing or whatever were the videos, the video. Hopefully you've played the game. Were the videos of basically the characters' loved ones, sending them video. I don't remember exactly what they said. Maybe wanting to see him again or something. I don't know exactly. I don't remember exactly what was in them. But Ryoma. So Ryoma got his, and if chapter 1 wasn't already gut-wrenching, they just hit you in the gut another time. Like, imagine you're fighting like a professional boxer, and he punches you in the gut once, you cough up blood and stop crying, and you beg for mercy, and then so he just does it again but with his other hand this time. Oh, it just does it again. So Ryoma got his video from someone close to him, just to find out there was literally nobody that cared enough about Ryoma in the world to send him a video about how they want to see him again, or whatever it was. And it was like, and he gave up on life. He literally gave up on life instantly. He literally, right then, when he saw that, he accepted death, and he allowed Kirami, who I'm going to talk about in a minute, he allowed her to kill him. He probably could have not died to her. He could have gotten away. He let it happen. Bruh. Like, oh my, it's so well. This game punches you in the gut, and that's what I like about V3 in comparison to the others. I think it's a much more emotional game. I really think it is. I think it's a much more emotional game than the others. But I watched this video by Fither, and there was always one line that he said, that it was about Ryoma. There was one line that he said that I always remember. It was something along the lines of sometimes in video games or in fiction or just in life, things just don't go your way. Some characters, some people just don't get the happy ending that everyone else gets to experience. And Ryoma fits that perfectly. Danganronpa, this is something Danganronpa does well, because they really humanize a lot of the characters that end up dying. Maybe not all of them, right? But someone like Ryoma was probably the most humanized characters before he was killed. The fact that there was, I don't know, imagine that. Imagine if there was nobody in the world, not one single person in the world, that actually cared enough about you to send you a video talking about how much they want to see you. No one in the world cares about you enough to do something like that. And on top of that, he has a really crazy backstory about how, out of his like pride or whatever, he threw this like tennis tournament or whatever, and then like killed the mafia with his tennis skills. I can never get that image out of my head of him killing mafia members with his tennis ability. I can never get that out of my head. I always imagine him like beheading them with his tennis balls. That I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of funny. And then he went to prison. I don't know how you go to prison at a young age like that, but he's in prison. Yeah, and he lost everyone. I think was his family killed or something like that, or his girlfriend. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened to the people that were close to him. But regardless, Ryoma is a very tragic character. Probably one of the most tragic characters that I've experienced in a video game. And he is just one of the many aspects of Danganronpa V3 that makes that game a masterpiece. And let's talk about Kirami. I said I wanted to love Kirami. Unfortunately, I think Kirami is actually one of the most boring characters in this series. If you like her, that's absolutely fine. I can imagine someone really liking her, but she is an archetype that I really don't like. There are like two character archetypes that I don't like in anime. One of them is one of them is the sort of like gangster type of the like brash, crude gangster type of archetype, kind of like Mondo, right? I'm really not into that type of character. I don't like it. I don't find it appealing. Sometimes I can enjoy them. It's not super. They're never my favorites though. And the other archetype is the servant or whoever who is so obedient and loyal to the point where they have literally no desires whatsoever of their own. They have no desires. They practically have no personality. I find characters like that boring personally. I'm not saying kudere characters, if you know what I'm talking about, like tsundere, kudere, like, you know, characters that are like deadpan, have like no emotions, because that's not really the same. They're usually not my favorite characters, but I can still kind of enjoy them. But like characters like Kirami, I find really boring. I really did not enjoy the fact that even in her like free time events or whatever, I did not enjoy the fact that she just basically has no desires of her own. Personally, that's just a character archetype I don't like. If you like her, that's completely fine. I don't look down on you or anything for liking her. That'd be weird. I like her aesthetics though. I think she's very cute. And the twist about her being the prime minister is just the most weirdo, over-the-top Danganronpa thing ever, and I love that. Oh my goodness, hold on. I didn't talk about the execution from Chapter 1. Let me talk about that. So Kaido has my favorite execution in the series, I think. Oh my, it was so like... It was so tailored to her that it hurt. The fact that they put her in a noose and they used her suffocating corpse to play a very poor rendition of a song. It wasn't Claire de Lune, it was like a different song. I think it was, at least. They just used her suffocating corpse to play a very bad rendition of a classical piano song. It's like, wow, that's so offensive that I actually think my feelings are hurt. Oh, that was brutal. That was brutal. Anyways, back to chapter 2. Okay, so the killing, yeah, I liked how the killing was set up. It was cool. It was intricate enough. I thought it was fine. The magic show with Himiko was kind of funny. It was kind of cute. Yeah, so the whole thing was basically, it was basically a perfect crime. The only way that you could even tell that it was Kirami is because she was actually being honest but misleading about her alibi. I think that was kind of interesting. It's still not one of the most exciting chapters. It's easily my least favorite. I did like the execution though. I always remembered her climbing up the thorn vine thing. And they got screwed over, and then I think like a bunch of random people showed up. It was funny. And she ended up being the prime minister, the secret prime minister of Japan. It's like, okay, that's cool. Anyways, moving on. Chapter 2 was alright. Chapter 3. So historically with Danganronpa, I love Chapter 3. I love Chapter 3. I loved it in both games. Even, I think I also liked Ultra Spheric. I liked every chapter in Ultra Spheric Girls, right? But V3, Chapter 3. So I was excited. I really liked the area that opened up, and I had to say the ambience, however you want to pronounce it, was absolutely spot on. I liked Keough's talent lab or whatever it's called a lot. Aesthetically, I thought Chapter 3 was really cool. I liked the music and everything. I thought it was really well done. It was so atmospheric. And let's talk about Angie. Angie is one of the most underrated characters in the entire series, if not the most underrated characters in the entire series. She is so hated on simply because she is an annoying cultist girl, right? Or she's an annoying religious girl. That I could understand why you would find her annoying, because she talks about Ottawa 24/7. I get that. I do understand that. But think about Angie's philosophy in the scenario that they're in. I want you to remember Celeste from Danganronpa 1. What did Celeste from Danganronpa 1 do? Do you know what she said? And I said this in that other video. But Celeste from Danganronpa 1, my voice is already getting scratchy. I can tell this is going to be a recurring theme. And I'm only at Chapter 3. Celeste in Danganronpa 1 suggested the idea of adapting to their environment instead of hopelessly looking for a way out. So we could, put an end to the killing game practically. And she was the first one to break that rule. That's what I liked about her, right? Is that she proposed this not too terrible idea, like a valid perspective. She proposed it but didn't believe it. Angie is basically, she embodies Celeste and Celeste's philosophy if she actually believed in it, right? So Angie believes that everyone should accept their new lives at that school or at that place, or I'll just call it the school or whatever. Everyone should accept their new lives there, so the killing game won't continue, and we'll all just live out the rest of our lives happy ever after, or whatever. We just have to adapt to it and accept it, or else everyone's going to die. And that's Angie's philosophy, and I really like that. I think that's really interesting. Now, was it supposed to be a callback to Celeste? I don't know, but it lines up pretty well. I really enjoyed that about her character. I feel like I enjoyed that about her more in hindsight than when I actually played. But I also just kind of like... I think Angie's also just a very entertaining character. I love, like, really bubbly, cutesy, flirty, optimistic girls, right? And she's also got a freaky side, right? I'm into that. And also her design's absolutely phenomenal. Probably one of the most attractive girls in the series, if not the most attractive girl in the series. But yeah, I like... I like characters that are entertaining, and I know a lot of Danganronpa fans do too, because that's why people like Nagito and Kokichi. Angie's similar. Angie's very entertaining. Like, how manipulative she can be, I find really entertaining. It's like, I don't know, it's like a combination of being, like, seductive and just, I don't know, warm. Yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. She's quite the exotic girl. I quite like her. I find her entertaining in every facet. I do understand how you could find her annoying, but I don't know. My opinion is I like her a lot. I think she's great. I'd probably say she's a top 5 character in V3 for me. If not 5, then she'd be like 6 or something. So I was sad that she died, but you can't say... My mic just moved. Okay. I can't say I didn't see it coming. I wasn't too surprised that she died. I was upset when she died. Basically, the way she was like forming essentially this cult, I don't know, man. I thought that was funny. I thought that was interesting. I thought it was such a weirdo thing to do, but I enjoyed it. And so when we get to the actual killing, oh wait, no. Let me talk about it. She wanted to bring someone back. Who'd she want to bring back? Did she want to bring back Rantaro because he had answers? That was actually a logical thing to do. Anyways, chapter 3. So I think in terms of the actual like content of the chapter, I really love it. I think it's pretty strong, but let me get to this. So okay, Angie died. That's what I was talking about. So Angie died. I was sad, but it was pretty expected. The actual like way she was killed, I kind of liked it. It was pretty intricate. But I really loved how. It sounds weird saying this, but I loved what they did with Tenko's death, which makes me sound like a psychopath. But oh my goodness, there was like an aspect of horror there that I really liked. Just being in that dark room, it was like quiet and everything. Everyone's there in the dark room. It got really quiet. We thought we were gonna talk to the spirits, and then through the seance, Tenko was killed. I don't know. Okay, Tenko. Yeah, the way that death was executed was so good. I loved that. And I will say, okay, so at this point in the game, Tenko had like this really big character moment with Himiko, and that's part of why a lot of people really love her. I'm gonna be real. When I played V3, I hated Tenko, like potentially my least favorite character in the series. But I have warmed up to her. She's definitely not one of my favorite characters. I don't think she is as amazing as people would have you believe. But I mean, liking characters is a much more personal thing than most other things or whatever. That was poorly worded. I think the characters you like are usually extremely personal. And I'm gonna make a top 10 characters list, anime characters list. And that will clear up my opinions on why I think that is. But Tenko, I'm not a fan of her free time events at all. I don't like her free time events. I do think the degenerate male thing is funny, and her sprites are really funny. She is generally a pretty funny character at times, but I did find her a bit annoying as well. And honestly, her character moment didn't really do as much for me as it apparently did for other people. That's just me though. I mean, I like Angie, so a lot of people will probably, criticize my opinion on that. But whatever, right? Tenko, she's fine. I guess I like what she did for Himiko, because Himiko has actually kind of become a favorite of mine. When I actually played V3, I didn't like Himiko, actually. But when I watched Weeby News' Let's Play of V3, or at least like the last half of it, and oh my goodness, I fell in love with Himiko through her dub voice. I can never remember her name. Is it Marie Christine Cabanos? Something like that? I don't know. I try to not keep up with voice actors because a lot of them are kind of cancerous, honestly. But she kills it. She kills it. She actually also voices Azusa from K-On!, which is my favorite anime. And Azusa is one of my favorite characters. I love her voice for Azusa as well. She has probably one of my favorite like dub voices, period. She's probably, let me reword that. She's probably one of my favorite dub voice actors. And I use actors as a general catch-all term. So yeah, in terms of the actual murders, I did like how they were carried out with in chapter 3 with Angie and Tenko. I thought they were well done. I did really like that chapter. I will say this, the disappointment that I do have towards chapter 3 is basically about Keough and his reveal. I think it was a little too, I don't know, it was a little too, I hate to say obvious, because I wasn't just predicting, oh yeah, it's obviously Keough. It's never obvious to me who the killer is most of the time, unless it's, like Leon, of course, chapter 1, DR1. But with Keough, it was just like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm not surprised that Keough's the blackened here. Yeah, and he did actually like talk conveniently more during that trial as well. Kind of like how Celeste talked more in DR1 during chapter 3, but whatever. I will say my biggest disappointment with chapter 3 is I actually think the reveal of Keough and what his whole mask was, and killing the girls and stuff, and his sister and that weirdo, just, I don't know, his whole reveal, I'm gonna be real, that was a terrible reveal. That was a bad reveal. I'll be honest. Yes, V3 is like my favorite video game of all time, but I still think the Keough reveal was legitimately not good. Like, okay, so I don't think shock value is inherently bad. I think shock value can be a very good tool to get the viewer's attention, but Keough's reveal was pretty much meaningless. It had no impact. It was just supposed to be a big what the F moment, and I was just like, okay, this is kind of stupid. Like, cause I thought Mikon's reveal, at least in DR2, made a lot more sense, because it was kind of foreshadowing something about what happened to the characters, right? And I liked Celeste's reveal at the end of in chapter 3, because it kind of went back on everything she had said as a character, and it made sense because of her ultimate talent being the ultimate gambler, whatever, right? Like, it made sense. There was a reveal, like Keough's reveal was just like wacky, for kind of for the sake of being wacky. If there was a deeper meaning to it that I'm unaware of, I would love to know, but I don't think there is. I've never heard anyone mention such a thing. But I really don't like that reveal of, I don't know, to me that was just cheap shock value. Again, I don't inherently hate shock value. I think it can actually be a really good thing sometimes if done correctly, but I don't think that was a good case of it. And when I said Keough was a hit or miss, that I expected him to be a hit or miss, I was completely right, and unfortunately he was a big miss. I think I'd say he's my least favorite V3 character, which is unfortunate, because I actually do like his design and I love his ultimate talent. Like, there was a lot of interesting stuff about Keough, and there was a lot going for him, but I think ultimately he just didn't do anything for me personally, and I don't think his reveal was particularly good. That is my biggest criticism of V3, is just the reveal of Korikyo's reveal in chapter 3. I don't think it was very good. Regardless, I did enjoy chapter 3. I would say it's probably my least favorite third chapter. I mean, it's close to DR1. I'd say it's probably tied with DR1 because in terms of the actual content of the chapter, I love it. I think it was really just a disappointing end for me personally. And, you know, I was actually kind of surprised at everyone else because all the reactions I'd seen of Korikyo's reveal were like a lot stronger than mine. I just thought it was dumb. I did. I was not particularly, I don't know. I don't feel like I was fooled by it. I didn't get caught up in it. I don't know. I kind of just shrugged it off. I was like, all right, whatever. That's just me though. Moving on to chapter 4. Chapter 4 is a weird one. It's an interesting one. I really like chapter 4. I'd say chapter 4, ignoring the final chapter, would be my third favorite in V3. Miyu plays a stronger role in this, and I love that because Miyu is such a freak and she's hilarious and funny, and that's the same exact thing, but she's extremely entertaining and so ridiculously useful at times. It's very weird. Miyu was designed to be hated apparently by Kadaka, which is very strange because she's hilarious and oddly useful. I don't see why he thought everyone would hate her, but whatever. Maybe Japanese people hate her. I don't know. So she sets up this virtual world, basically. It's sort of like a video game world, and it's got this really cute, like chibi sort of art form, and it was very different from anything you'd seen in the other games. I guess the closest thing, I guess for a comparison, it's kind of like a mixture of the game that you play from chapter 2 of DR2 with the setting of chapter 4 from DR2. It's like they wanted to be in the weird setting, but they wanted it to be video gamey. It was really cool. And I was skipping straight to the murder for this, just because I want to talk about it. The whole thing about the map, the whole twist about the map being like, well, was it reverse or whatever? They switched like half the map. I don't know what they did. Something about the loading point. Whatever trick they did with the map was so cool. I sound like I haven't played the game, don't I? I don't know. I can't remember every detail perfectly, right? I have not so great memory when it comes to like fiction, but I really loved the twist of that. I feel like there was a lot of like pretty nice like build up of lore from my memory of this, of just with Kokichi acting completely suspicious. What happened with Ganta? I don't know. There was some sort of like flashback light that they did with him. I can't really remember, honestly. I don't know. Really, Kokichi, really, this is where his character starts to take a turn for the worst or the best. Who even knows? But I really think that Miyu and Kokichi are kind of the stars of chapter 4. Honestly, I don't remember too much that happened in the chapter as a whole, but I just remember really enjoying the actual video game world and a lot of the character suspense. And I guess just skip straight to the murder because I kind of want to go a bit faster because I'm already an hour into this. But we go to we find Miyu dead when we wake up, and Gaunt is completely confused, and it was so sad how Ganta, it was so sad. Even though I kind of said I don't really care for Ganta, I can still admit how sad it was that he was manipulated so hard into killing Miyu, and he didn't even know it because of the whole memory thing that got messed up. That was like, he didn't even know where he was or what was happening. He was so confused. Everyone just thought he was like dumb and technologically stupid, right? But he was in reality, like he literally could not remember anything that just happened. But back to Kokichi. This is where Kokichi starts to really like amp things up by just doing some messed up, wacky stuff. I already loved Kokichi by this point. I loved how much he was like spicing up the killing game. Oh, I didn't even talk about the fake out Kokichi death in chapter 3. Yo, I lost my mind at that. I was like, I was scared. I freaked out for a second. I was like, bro, they really killed 3 people? Kokichi was one of them? The fact that they showed what lengths Kokichi was willing to go for whatever it was he was trying to achieve was I thought pretty well done at this point in the game. I don't really have much to say about chapter 4 other than I really enjoyed it, and I kind of just want to move on. So I'm gonna move on. Chapter 5 is probably the okay. Let's first talk about Kaido and Shuichi. I want to say they nailed the awkwardness between Kaido and Shuichi once they kind of had a little bit of a falling out of sorts due to Kaido kind of being jealous and Shuichi kind of having to flex on him, They portrayed the awkwardness of that so well, and I want to say when they make up with each other, it feels so good. It actually feels like I just made up with a friend that I had a bad argument with in real life. And for some reason, Danganronpa makes me feel that way. Danganronpa makes me feel like I'm actually there. I don't know how they do it, but they do. I feel like I just made up with my bros. I don't know. It makes me want to hit up the boys. It makes me want to hit up the boys and just like appreciate the time that I have with them. I don't know. Something about that was just so well done. It was so awkward, and that was fun. I loved how Maki tried to she tried to make them make up. It was funny. It was very cute. I love Maki so much. I actually haven't talked much about Maki or Shuichi at this point. Let me talk about that. So at this point, I want to say one of my favorite things about the game, if not my favorite thing about the game, is the Shuichi, Kaido, Maki trio. My favorite scenes from the game are probably when those three are just outside at night, hanging out, exercising, talking, just being friends. Something about those moments to me feels so magical. It's just like I hate to say it, sounds sorry, but I feel like I'm there with them, right? That's like something. If a video game can make you feel like you're a part of this group like that, or that these are your actual friends, it feels so good. It's such a hard thing to do, to get immersed, to feel like you're actually there in a way. I mean, and I talked about this in my other video, but to the point, where I literally, whenever I play Danganronpa game, I always have dreams like the following night of like I'm in Danganronpa and I'm having like anxiety. I have like an anxious feeling in my chest because it's like I'll be like trying to investigate a killing and then I can't figure it out, and then I feel dumb when it's revealed. That happens. I literally would like dream about it. Actually like messed up my sleep, but it's so worth it, right? But yeah, the level of immersion that I felt during those nighttime scenes with Kaido, Shuichi, Maki, I love those scenes so much. I will never forget Kaido asking Maki what her favorite blood type is. Why is that even a question? I love them. I love those three so much. I really do. Yeah, like I said, Maki trying to help them make up with each other. It's the cutest thing ever. I love Maki. Maki has some of my favorite character development ever. Chapter 5 is an interesting chapter for Maki, and I'm going to talk about it because I need to bring up a point, something that I said about Asahina in DR1. So, but let's slow down first. Let's talk about the actual game. So, this is potentially the most genius whodunit scenario, one of, if not the best whodunit scenarios that I think has ever been written in a sort of like mystery thriller suspense story. If you can like tell me, like if you can tell me a better whodunit scenario than Chapter 5 of V3, if it's like a book or an anime or a game or something, I would love to know what it is so I can experience it, because I don't know how anything could really top it. It was so perfectly set up, well executed, to the point where you legitimately could not tell who was actually dead and who was actually alive, to the point where even Monokuma did not know who actually died. The thing is, it even ties into the fact of what Danganronpa is. Monokuma always knows who the killer is. Monokuma even knew that in Danganronpa 2 that Nanami was the one that threw the thing at Nagito, that was the thing that actually killed him. How does he know that? There's no way he should be able to know that, but apparently he knew that, unless he secretly didn't and just pretended to know. But that was not, I got it again! That was not said to be the case. But even Monokuma did not know who the murderer was. This was the most well set up thing ever. How do you do that? How do you write something like that? It was so genius. It was so genius. There was so much drama, so many twists. Oh my goodness. And when Maki shows up and then the exchange that they had, and in the bathroom, and then he pretends to chug the antidote. Oh my goodness. It was so perfectly executed. And all that happening just to find out that Kaido, regardless, was the blackened after he made up with Shuichi. It was all so much. And then when Maki confessed so hard to Kaido, then okay, I'll be real, I don't particularly ship Maki and Kaido, probably because I like Maki, and I don't know. That's being petty, because she's literally not even real. Why do I feel? Yeah, isn't that such a dumb thing? Isn't that such a lame thing to actually feel jealous towards a fictional character? Right? Whatever. Anyways, but regardless, it was a very passionate, emotional scene. And you know what Danganronpa V3 does better than any other game in the series? Emotion. Danganronpa, I feel like it's undeniable, personally, in my opinion, that V3 has higher emotional climaxes than the other games, higher emotional peaks than the other games. I really think they do, because I think V3 focused much more on building like intense character relationships. There felt like there was a reason for everything. Every character that died had something going on that would make me feel for them, whether it's a bond they had. Like, I guess I felt bad for Kaido and Maki when Kaido died, because Maki was going insane, crying her eyes out, because the only person that she's ever fallen in love with, probably the only person to ever treat her the way that he did, was about to be executed, which was gut-wrenching. And then something like I said earlier with Ryoma, who literally had nobody in his life that cared about him. And then Kaede, and then so almost all of the deaths in this game were just so impactful. And I don't really get that as much from the other games. And keep in mind, I'm saying this about games that I think are 10 out of 10. I think Danganronpa 1 and 2 are both 10 out of 10 games. Yet V3 somehow still tops those games with its emotional peaks. For me, I'm not going to say that I can't see someone being more emotionally impacted by DR2 or DR1, because I definitely do think that they can. It's all personal. At the end of the day, it's a video game, right? It's art. But for me, that's how I feel about V3. And Chapter 5 itself is just a masterpiece. If Chapter 1 is not, in my opinion, the best chapter in the series, I think it's Chapter 5 of V3 then. I think Chapter 5 is the better whodunit scenario, but it also has crazy high emotional peaks. But I think Chapter 1 was just also phenomenally set up, and just like perfectly artistic writing. I love this series. Yeah, but I'll say I really liked Kaido. I think he's a character that grew on me more and more. I didn't expect him to be as important at the beginning of the game. At the beginning of the game, I did not think I thought he was going to die on fairly early, right? Maybe like Chapter 2 or something, but he made it to Chapter 5, and he was a really important character. Personally, I think Kaido is, I think Shuichi is an extremely relatable character for me personally. I feel like I relate to him a lot, and I think it's fitting that he's great friends with Kaido, because I actually do really I get along really well with people like Kaido, and I think that was portrayed very well in V3. It felt realistic in that sense. I could imagine Kaido being someone that I could hang out with in real life. I think it would actually I think we would actually get along fairly well. And then Kokichi's a maniac. By the way, another yawn. I'm going insane. I'm gonna go sleep soon. Kokichi, I forgot to mention Kokichi going crazy or whatever. Not crazy, but like flexing on everyone at the end of Chapter 4 like an absolute villain. And he just, sidestepped the mess out of Kaido's punch. I always loved that scene. Thought that was great. Excellent. Kokichi's an excellent character. And I want to say, at this point, so Kokichi's died. which I didn't even really mention, but Kokichi is also one of my favorite characters. I'd say he's like my third favorite character in V3. One of my favorite characters, probably my second favorite male character in the series, really. I think he was actually pretty masterfully written in the sense that you legitimately cannot tell when or if he is like telling the truth or he's lying. It becomes so clouded, and you honestly, like, usually every characters will like say something at the end, like after their death, whereas like, oh yeah, this must have been their intention because the game told me. So like when Sayaka, at the end of the first trial of DR1, I think Kirigiri tells Naegi what she thinks Sayaka's intent actually was when she wrote Leon on the wall in their blood, right? And so you're like, okay, well that must have been true. But in V3 with Kokichi, you actually get presented with both you have like two different people arguing that, or stating that. I think one of them said that I think Kaido, I can't remember who it was, but one of them said that they thought Kokichi would at least tell the truth in his final words, in his last words, while someone else said, or something along the lines of, even up to the very end, he was probably still lying. It's like, there really is no clear-cut answer on whether Kokichi is ever like lying or not. It's really crazy how interestingly he was written. And I feel like Danganronpa does that really well. Danganronpa writes characters in ways that I've never seen them written before. And another one that pops to my mind is, I think her name's Ryoka or whatever, from Danganronpa 0. I never finished the light novel, but what I did read, I really loved it. It was interesting to write a character like her, and I kind of do know the twist of it a little bit. I don't fully understand, but essentially she loses her memory literally instantly. So imagine having to write a character who literally forgets everything the very second it happens. So it's just like stuff like that. Danganronpa just writes characters that I would never expect. Okay, and I have to talk about Maki now. So Maki essentially tried to get everyone killed, I think, to protect Kaido or something along those lines in this 5th chapter. And let me tell you why I was a hypocrite about this. Because when I played V3, I forgave Maki instantly. Probably just because she's an emo queen. And I really like her. She was my favorite. She's like she was like my second favorite character in the game, right? But I hated Asahina because she tried to do the same thing in DR1. So when I realized that I loved Maki, who did the same thing, and I forgave Maki, who did the same exact thing basically that Asahina did, I was like, wow, I'm a hypocrite. So I had to actually forgive Asahina. It's just a character, right? It's a fictional character. Who cares? But like, I actually had to change my opinion on Asahina because I felt like a hypocrite. Now, I still don't love Asahina much as a character, but I do admit it's a bit unfair of me to give Maki a pass, but not Asahina. Though I do think Asahina is also like really attractive, so it's not exactly just based off of appearances. But regardless, it was a bit of a double standard. But yeah, Chapter 5, it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Chapters, oh my goodness. I'm gonna get a headache, dude. I already kind of have a headache. Let me take a sip of this water. It's some good water. Okay, Chapter 6, the ending of Danganronpa V3, is, in my opinion, a perfect ending that will never be matched by another video game to ever exist, in my opinion. Or for me I should say for me personally. I know it's controversial. I know it is. I know so many people hated the ending. They liked the entire game up until the ending. And they played the ending. They hate it, and it ruined their opinion of V3. I get it. Except I don't, because you're wrong. No. So, personally, my genuine opinion is that if you're truly bothered by the ending of V3, I think you're being a bit shallow and you're not trying to understand the intent of Kadaka when he wrote that. That's what I think. I mean, I can understand someone not liking the idea of a meta narrative, but I really do. And honestly, I think V3 has a much, much stronger message than the previous games. I don't even know if you can argue that. I don't even know if you can argue otherwise. I feel like V3's message is so much stronger, and it's enhanced by the fact that it is a meta narrative, and I love it to death. I love the ending to V3, but let's build up to there. And I don't want to talk about it for too long. I've already been talking for a long time. I'm actually pretty tired. Around the beginning, you have well, let me go ahead and say the worst thing about the ending. The worst thing is during the investigation, you have this weird like limit to things you can interact with. You can't just like click on everything. I mean, you can, but you'll go back to a certain like spawn point or whatever. It's really bizarre, and I don't like that at all. I don't know why they put that in the game, but okay. So I guess in that sense, it's not perfect, but I was mostly talking about the writing side of things. But yeah, I don't know why they did that. And I will say this, the music, phenomenal. I haven't mentioned the music at all. The music of V3 is phenomenal. It's probably my third favorite video game soundtrack, only behind Persona 5 and Nier Automata. Beautiful Lies, amazing. Scrum Debate's amazing. The final investigation theme, which was Hope Searching, is absolutely phenomenal. The opening's amazing. New World Order, of course, is amazing. Living in a Lazy Parallel World's amazing. So many great songs. So much great ambience and atmospheric music. I love it so much. It's a great though. It's great. Yeah. So, man, let me tell you about how disappointed I was when you find evidence. Once you find the hidden secret hallway connecting from the girls' bathroom to the behind the library, I can't tell you how disappointed I was, because I remembered the thing about Tsumugi in chapter 1 and how she was in the bathroom and that was her alibi. And I was like, oh, it's so clear who it's so obviously Tsumugi now. I so desperately did not want to be able to predict who the mastermind was, and I did predict it, and when it was revealed, I was so upset. But, like, let me tell you why this is the most roller coaster of emotions ever felt with a video game, because the way they flipped it on its head was so insane. Oh my, let me get there. We'll get there. There's still more to talk about. Kibo went insane, so that was cool. I yawned again! What a mad lad. Okay, the Ron Tara video gave me chills. I love that. I love the idea of watching this video of this guy we saw killed earlier with his message to himself. And it's like, but he wasn't even the one seeing it. It was us. I'm telling you, Spike Chunsoft needs to make a prequel to V3 that shows Rontaro in his killing game where he wins it. They need to do that. I know it doesn't even have to be in the traditional Danganronpa format. I want that so bad. I know they could do. That's the perfect way that you could not ruin V3. In fact, you'd probably enhance V3 by writing about Rontaro's initial killing game where he won. That would have been way better. That would be an amazing thing to do if they ever make a new game. I wish they would do that. A lot of people brought that up. I think it'd be a great idea. Anyways, yes, I love that. It's really cool. Stuff happens. They get to the final. Let's just get to the final trial. So Tsumugi is revealed as the mastermind. I was so upset. I was very visibly disappointed. Like, if you could see me like playing the game, you could see how upset I was, because I did not want to be able to predict who the mastermind was, because of the fun of Danganronpa is not being able to predict what they're gonna do. But then it happens. Tsumugi goes insane. Not stupid shock value, cheap insane. She starts dressing up as the other characters, and she starts spouting about how everything is fiction, and she starts talking about Danganronpa itself, or they call it Danganronpa. I've never liked calling it Danganronpa. I've always called it Danganronpa. I don't really care. I don't know. I just like that pronunciation better. And I was like, yo, what's going on? What's this game about to do? What is she doing? Why is she spouting this? And then for just like half an hour, if not longer, it's just like straight up like half an hour or whatever straight of Tsumugi talking about everything being fiction, and just it's like bomb after bomb after bomb, and you see like every character from the previous game, from the previous mainline games, from 1 and 2, showing up, or she's dressing up as all of them, going insane. It's like, what's going on? What is she doing? Why is she talking about everything being fiction? And then just out of nowhere, she reveals all the people. And by the way, this was actually kind of foreshadowed too with the kid. There was like a kid who was like bullied or whatever. I don't know. He's like watching Danganronpa on his phone. Like what? Oh, and by the way, the flashback. I didn't even talk about the flashbacks of them learning about them being like Hope's Peak Academy students and all that. I can't even talk about that. That's all crazy stuff. Oh my goodness. It's so much. There's so much I could talk about. And I kind of want to replay the last chapter. Maybe I should have done that, but whatever. There's so much, but I gotta go faster. Okay. Anyways. So she's going insane, Tsumugi, and I was like, I had forgotten about my disappointment at this point, because I was just wondering where this was going, and it turns into this. It's literally an antithesis of what Danganronpa stood for as a series. Danganronpa, its main themes are quite obviously hope and despair. It's a meme, right? Ooh, despair. Ooh, right? Ooh, woo. And it's like Kodaka got like ticked off at the idea of writing another hope versus despair storyline, and so he just said, F it, I'm gonna make this a story about the power and influence of fiction. And it's literally the antithesis to Danganronpa. And I love that. It's the craziest, riskiest thing I ever seen a director do. And I mean, like, and I play Yoko Taro games. Yoko Taro games are, okay, well, Yoko Taro games are very risky and crazy, and that's what I love about him. That's why Yoko Taro is still my favorite director. But Kodaka, this was an absolute Chad, mad lad, maniac, psychopath move of him to do, of where we literally have like perspective changes. Like we have like new main characters, like, oh, Kibo this whole time has been transmitting this whole entire thing. Kibo was the actual protagonist because the audience has been viewing everything from his lens, from his viewpoint. And so you start playing as Kibo and then you start playing as Maki and Himiko, and you play as all of them. And it turns into this, you know what? What's the point of hope if this cycle just continues? What's the point of this argument about hope and despair? What's the point if hope overcomes despair? This isn't true hope. This isn't true hope because it's just a cycle. It doesn't matter if we beat despair in this temporary fashion. We need to beat it once and for all, and becomes this statement about beating Danganronpa, this killing game. And yes, you could feel personally offended, as if, because a lot of people do. A lot of people say they felt called out by the game. Okay, I'm not going to say it's not valid, but you have to look at this from a Japanese lens because it's a Japanese game. Japanese people, none of them viewed it this way. Kodaka, in an interview, was surprised when the Western interviewer said that they felt called out by the game's ending, like they were being called out for enjoying watching these high schoolers kill each other, these kids kill each other, right? And that's how the West perceived it. But in Japan, people are a lot better at, and he said this himself in the interview, he believes that, and I also believe it to be true, that the Japanese are a lot better at separating fiction from reality. They didn't particularly feel called out by this ending because they're able to separate the two. And I mean, and think about it this way. If Kodaka really was trying to call out the player for enjoying something as insane as watching kids murder each other, which is quite a reductive way to say it, don't you think Kodaka would be calling himself out even more because he's the one writing and making these games? I feel like it's I'm not going to say it's not entirely valid, but Kodaka would essentially be calling himself out too. That was not the intent. I think author intent is extremely important. I don't think you can just interpret everything exactly the way you want it without acknowledging author intent, and also acknowledging the culture of, you know, where he comes from, Japan, right? They think a lot differently than we do in the West about stuff like this, about fiction. And personally, I appreciate the Japanese perspective a little bit more. But whatever. I could understand. I'm not gonna say I didn't feel slightly called out, but I'm not offended by it in any way. It did not harm my experience in any way. And that was clearly not the intent. But anyways, at this point, the game is calling out this fictitious world that has become completely addicted to Danganronpa as a thing. It's turned into a cycle of, oh, hope must beat despair. Hope must defeat Junko Enoshima. It's always Junko Enoshima. And it's so great. Oh, it's so good. I love it so much. And Shuichi, like the absolute Chad. He's a Chad. Like the absolute Chad he is, says no. This is not true hope. This is far from hope. It's just a cycle. It's an endless cycle of suffering, for these characters. And to be confronted with the idea that they are fiction and they're not real, and that they signed up for this. They show them those videos, which there are theories about being fabricated, by the way. If you look at Tsumugi's room, there's a whole theory about that. That's worth checking out if you didn't know about. It's really interesting, actually. The idea, they have to face the idea of, they have to come to terms with the fact that they may indeed be fiction, but that doesn't make them powerless. Because through fiction, they can end this horrible thing. This horrible thing that society has been relying on. Regardless if they are human or not, if they're real or not, they have the power to influence people. And the thing is, that message goes beyond just what's actually happening in the game. I think it's actually also a message to the player. Fiction is legitimately an extremely powerful thing. Television is powerful. Kids grow up with television. Video games are important. Anime, theaters, play, poems, writing, books, it's all important, it's all influential. It both shapes how we think, and how we think shapes what we create and what we write. And I love the message. I really do. I think it's a very strong message, and it's a very unique message. It's not something that you can tell in a traditional format, because you can talk about the power of fiction in a non-fiction format by just giving a lecture on how fiction is impactful, but to actually discuss the importance of fiction within fiction is so crazy and so interesting and so fun and so unique and so captivating. I love it. I think it's genius. I do. And it saddens me that there are people that don't like it. I'm not going to say that the people that don't like it don't get it, because I think a lot of people do get it and they still don't like it, and that's fine. That's your opinion. But I don't think it's good to, I don't know, as long as you're not being condescending to the people that love it, because I love it. I think it's amazing. And honestly, I feel like it's more shallow to not like it personally. I don't know. You could argue that maybe V3 steered away from whatever it was supposed to be when it started. I don't know. I really don't. I mean, I want to ask you this, to the hypothetical people that are watching, even though I don't think anyone's going to watch this. If Danganronpa V3 ended with a more typical hope beats despair in the end, if it was set up the same way, like Tsumugi was the antagonist or whatever, let's say take out all of the meta stuff, right? If it was a typical hope beats despair ending, do you not think you would have been disappointed? Because personally, I think I would have. I think I would have been disappointed if they didn't do something crazy, and I didn't know that. Okay, I actually went into V3 expecting it to be my least favorite game in the series because I didn't see how they could possibly top 1 and 2 because I just loved it that much. But after a while, I realized that this was the only thing that V3 could do that could keep my interest, that could keep me passionate about the game. This was the only way that V3 for me could have rivaled the previous games. Because Danganronpa 2, in my opinion, was just a perfection of the groundwork that Danganronpa 1 laid out. But V3 took everything to a different level, and I really love that. Yes, some of the killings are still kind of formulaic in a sense, like killing 2 people in chapter 3. A lot of mirror killings, right? But I feel like V3 went so much harder in different ways with more of its emotional storytelling, like in chapter 1 and chapter 5, and it's just absolutely insane meta-narrative ending about the power of fiction and its influence on the people that consume it. I love it. It's legitimately one of, if not the most thought-provoking game that I have ever played. I honestly can't think of another game that is more thought-provoking to me than V3. I could think maybe like Nier Automata, maybe. I don't even know about that. I don't know. I guess Valhalla was pretty thought-provoking in a different way. But I don't know. I thought about V3 for so much. I thought about that game so much after I beat it. Not just like a day or a week or even a month. I legit thought about V3 several months, maybe even like a year. I still think about it. That's why I'm making this video. I still think about it. I still love V3 to death. I love its message. I love the cast. I love the writing. I love the art. I love everything about the game. Do I have complaints about the game? I'll actually say this. I actually think V3 has both the most disappointing and the most satisfying and climactic and exciting parts in the entire series. It really is a roller coaster, and I think that's on purpose. And I want to bring this up again because I use that word multiple times, roller coaster. So I was so disappointed when I successfully predicted Tsumugi, right? Because it wasn't super hard. It was pretty easy to tell at a certain point. I wanted there to be some big twist, and I think I was supposed to be disappointed just so I could be blown away. I think honestly writing that was not enough for Kodaka, so he wrote this crazy meta narrative instead. I think I feel like he thought like me in that sense, that it just would not have been as satisfying if it just ended the same way as the other games. Crazy, right? I don't know if they can touch V3. Honestly, I think V3 was a perfect ending, and then so I guess let's talk about the very ending. Actually, let me finish that up. So all this crazy stuff happens. A lot of hints about what Tsumugi's plan might have been. I don't fully understand it. Kibo destroys everyone. Literally, they're all supposed to die, but the audience wanted to save them at the very end of it. And so they found themselves alive, the 3, who, by the way, I find it funny that Shuichi, Himiko, and Maki all have, like, red and black coloring. They all have, like, edgy, like, emo sort of clothing. And they were the 3 survivors. I thought that was kind of funny. But I will never forget that shot of just, like, the dome ripping or whatever, and the camera pans out, and you see the Team Danganronpa logo on the outside of the dome. And I was like, wow. They really did that with this game. This game really did something that crazy. I actually have the chills right now. I'm actually looking at my hair. My hair is actually like standing up. I'm a loser. Why do I care about video games? I don't know. It's such a weird thing. Well, I know why I care about video games. V3 told me. I don't know. It shook me to my core. I love stuff like that. I love really crazy, weird, unconventional storytelling. I really do. I find it so much more interesting nowadays. And V3 may just forever be my favorite game of all time. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I'm only 22. That could change. I thought Paper Mario 1000 Year Door was going to be my favorite video game for my entire life. But then I played Danganronpa. Yeah. Subscribe. Final thoughts. Actually, don't subscribe. You don't want to. Final thoughts. There's so much more I could say, but this is an hour and 45 minutes, which is really freaking long. I just had so much more to talk about. I feel like with V3, I could go more in depth with it. Yeah, I love everything about the game. Not that I don't have any criticisms. Of course, there are problems I have with the game. I actually think Danganronpa 2 has a better middle section of the game. I like chapters 2, 3, and 4 from DR2 more than I do 2, 3, and 4 from V3 to an extent, for the most part at least. But I will always say that I much prefer to watch something or play something that takes big risks and is far more ambitious, but sacrifices technical qualities at times, or maybe consistency at times, compared to something that is extremely consistent but doesn't take as many risks. And I'm not saying Danganronpa 2 doesn't take any risks, because I don't think that's the case, but I think V3 is a far more ambitious game. I think it's a far riskier game. It was a far riskier story to tell with its ending, and I always appreciate that. Just like killing the protagonist, turning the game into a meta narrative. It was really insane. I was blown away by it. I really am. I love V3 so much. I should probably not care this much about fictional things, but I do. Here I am talking about it for an hour 46 minutes. That's crazy. Yeah, V3. Never played anything like it before. Probably never will. The worst thing about Danganronpa is that I cannot replay it and get the same feelings. It's literally a once in a lifetime experience, unless I, 20 years later forget everything that happened, which is possible. Hopefully, my PS4 still works when I'm an old boomer. So, I could talk about more stuff. I really could, but I'm gonna have to end it here. If anyone actually watched this video, you're pathologically insane. And I'm really sorry you had to waste your life. You actually wasted precious time of your life listening to someone talk about how much they like a fictional thing. I made this channel simply so I could ramble about whatever. There's a lot of gushing in this video, and there's gonna be a lot of that on this channel. I just finished 13 Sentinels, and I want to make a video on that because I love that game to death too. That was a crazy great game. That was also unlike anything I've ever played. I got a lot of stuff planned I want to talk about. My throat hurts. Yeah. Goodbye. That is the end of Danganronpa. If we ever get another game in the series, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to play it. I'm going to get excited. But I highly doubt anything will top Danganronpa V3 for me personally. Have a good night.